Welcome to another exciting and elucidating episode of the Omni Talk Ask an Expert series. I'm your host, Chris Walton.
And I'm Mezzenga.
And this is it is our final Ask an Expert Front Porch series with Firework as a lead up to NRF, where Firework will be at booth number 3951. That's 3951 in a special lounge designed with front porches of all varieties where you can meet with fellow retailers and brands in our retail community to continue these conversations IRL. That's in real life for those not of the parlance. Today we're going to invite
that defeats the purpose of IRL. That defeats the purpose. You sound cooler.
I know. And me trying to sound cool just never lands. So I just couldn't even do it.
I know.
You know, but hey, glad you gave me some much deserved grief there. I resemble that remark. Today we're going to invite two more people to today's show. So please join me in welcoming former Coty Chief Digital Officer Jean-Denis Mariani and Fireworks Head of Beauty Kristi Vannatter. Jean-Denis and Kristi, welcome to Omni Talk.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Chris.
We're excited to have you both for this final Front Porch series. Jean-Denis, this is your first time on the show. Kristi's been on with us before. What are you excited to talk about? You're former Chief Digital Officer at Coty. What are you most excited to tell people about today? If there was one thing we had to ask you.
Probably content. How content is important to engage with people. I mean, it's probably definitely for the brands the best way to stand out from the crowd. On an average, I know that I read that recently that people are scrolling like 300 feet of content on a daily basis. So as a brand, how do you stand out from the crowd? And it's through probably immersive and relevant content.
Well, we are so excited. I was so thrilled when we found out that we got to have you on. Kristi, welcome back again. It's great to have you. And we're excited to get your perspective as well on what Jean-Denis just said, product content being so important.
I just got off a phone call with a major Fortune 50 company who shall be nameless. And they have this they're like, we don't know what content, we don't know where to start. We don't know how to create it. Do we get UGC? Do we get branded content? So he's exactly right, Jean-Denis, as he normally is, that content is the number one problem, but this is where Firework really comes in to help solve that and bridge that gap.
Amazing. Well, before we get into this conversation, just a quick reminder to those of you who are joining us live on LinkedIn right now, Kristi and Jean-Denis and the team at Firework are here to take any of your questions throughout this session. You can place them in the chat window to your right as we continue. At any point in time, we'll do our best to get to those. So Jean-Denis, I'd love to start off before we get into the conversation, just by giving our audience a little bit of your background, because it is vast. So go ahead, we'll kick it off with that.
Thank you. I've been working almost 25 years in digital and in diverse industry, from travel to gaming to utilities to luxury, and with a strong focus for the last 10 years in beauty. And I've had the privilege of working as a chief digital and e-commerce officer for L'Oreal, LVMH, and more recently, Coty.
Amazing. Kristi, let's give everyone just a quick overview on your background as well as head of beauty, and a little background on Firework for those who may be meeting the company for the first time.
Absolutely. I have been in beauty for about 15 years and in beauty kind of tech for the past 10 years. In fact, in my former company, I got to work with Jean-Denis when he was at Coty. So excited to have him here today. But before Firework really came along, and a lot of e-commerce brands were relying on like traditional video players that were really heavy on the page. So if you think about the infrastructure of YouTube or Vimeo, right, they all have very heavy load times, right? So Firework really came in to change this narrative, and we wanted it so that everybody, whether you're a Walmart or you're an up and coming cosmetic brand, to engage your customers with ultra low latency. And that means the video infrastructure that we have at Firework will load in less than 400 milliseconds. So that's our goal. We really want to bring that to the everyday customer shopping experience in the digital store.
Fantastic.
All right, so let's get to today's interview. So Jean-Denis, I want to start with you. So you mentioned you're excited to talk about content. So my question for you to start out is, what are the key trends that you think digital retailing and brand executives should have on their radar screen as they approach the upcoming year?
Again, at the core of it is about content, but I will give you some insight on that. According to me, I think there is three main trends. The first one is about hyper personalization. I mean, people are expecting more tailored experience, and they know that brands are collecting more and more data about transaction behavior, so they expect to get ultra personalization in terms of experience. So definitely, I would say that personalization and AI-driven experience is something that is going to be hot. The second thing is probably about influence marketing. There is a shift in influence marketing strategy. And let's say that now brands are looking more and more into what we call micro and nano influencers. So people like you and me, probably let's say the brand advocates with a small followings community, but extremely engaged. So brands are looking to authentic post. That's why also user generating content is something very hot also. And the third probably trend, the most important one for me, is about video commerce and shoppable video, because we know that now video is totally overpricing picture in terms of experience, and that the Gen Z and millennials now they are looking to this, let's say, immersive experience. And definitely the video format, the video content it's more engaging.
So Denis, let me ask you a follow-up question on there. So yeah, I mean, video for sure. I mean, we're seeing that in our business even. Like video is taking off relative to podcasting even for us now. And so that's just how people are consuming their content. And it's consuming it in a very short form as well. And then you mentioned personalization and influencers too. The one word you said in the first one was AI. I'm curious, like, what aspects of AI do you expect retailers and brands to invest in, or how do you expect it to improve the business in 2025?
I would say probably on two ways. The first one is through customer services and AI chatbot. And thanks to the analysis of all your historical data, behaviors, etc. And the second one is product recommendation. So it's to be able, thanks to AI, to be extremely precise when it comes to product recommendation to meet your expectation in terms of product and services.
Will it impact content generation in any way? What are your thoughts there?
Yes, obviously. I mean, also when it comes to AI-driven experience, we know that now everybody is working on how AI could support efficiently all this content creation. And definitely, we could imagine that personalization and content strategy is going to be completely mixed, and that we're going to provide with very personalized content to, let's say, segmented audiences.
Well, Jean-Denis, one other question that I have too is, you talked about this rise of the micro influencer or the nano influencer. And that's something that Sarah Potempa, the CEO of Beach Waver, said on our last session, was like, they're going out to college campuses and they're sourcing, people to speak on behalf of their brand in that way. How do you see that trend continuing and kind of what are the things that companies need to have in place in order to have success when they're reaching out to, someone who's doing video commerce for the first time?
The thing is how brands are going to engage with this, let's say, new prescription audience. So we know that now it's something that is fully integrated in marketing strategy to use this UGC and from our best customers, from nano influencers, etc., because it's about authenticity and people are looking for authenticity now. So the next thing is going to be probably why not include this nano influencer into our sales strategy. Giving them the microphone to, let's say, organize live streaming and on our product. So that's why also we say about video content, shoppable content, live streaming is gonna boom for sure. But definitely we could take advantage of this authentic brand ambassadors and nano influencer to become the best brand advocates and to promote our product and services. Why not through live streaming session organized by the brand itself?
Well, and Kristi, that brings up a question for you then too, because I'm curious, like, what does that mean from a infrastructure on the brand side too, and how are you like? I'm sure that's now an important thing for Firework to talk about with potential clients, but like, how do you approach answering that question as brands like Jean-Denis is talking about are trying to figure out how to find those smaller people and really equip them with the technology to do that at a quality level that's there.
Yeah. Through the Firework platform, you can actually we have an Instagram and a TikTok importer that you can find through hashtags. You can find UGC content, and then with a click of a button, you can actually reach out to that person and get their consent to utilize the video. And then also with regards to live streaming, we like to refer to it as digital showroom because we think even if it's done live, it's great to live 24/7, within your site. And a lot of our brands that don't have content will maybe film like an hour live stream, and then they'll cut that up into short shoppable videos, right? So you can take 30 products, talk about them with a micro or nano influencer within an hour, and then edit those into short shoppable videos. And that's something you can do within the platform of Firework. So those are great ideas for brands that really just don't have the content or they don't know where to get started. You don't need fancy equipment. You literally can have a ring light and an iPhone and you can film a digital showroom.
Kristi, I want to get your thoughts on the question that we asked Jean-Denis to start too. So like you just mentioned at the outset that you were speaking to a top 50 Fortune retailer here recently. What are you hearing them say are the trends that from your perspective, what are the trends that they're looking at going into 2025? Is it the same that Jean-Denis mentioned, or is there any color you'd add there?
I think they're still a little scared of UGC.
Yeah.
They're scared of it. Okay.
They're scared of it because they're like,
yeah, I would see that. Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to control, like, I lose control. And what we say is just at least find the UGC content out there because your customers are giving you the best content there is, right? If you look at these videos, literally you can go down rabbit holes, right, of TikTok and Instagram, but wouldn't you rather have those videos on your own site, right? And allow these Gen Z kids that want to watch, 20 and 25 videos at a time, let them watch all from the same brand versus being on Instagram and TikTok where they're then the algorithm knows they have an intent to purchase a specific product and then they start getting fed your competitors, right? So go ahead and utilize it within your own site. And I do agree with Jean-Denis, authenticity is key. We hear that a lot from brands. They don't really know where to get started. But I think if you start to search out that UGC content, you'll find that, oh my goodness, the lighting in their bathrooms are amazing. And they are your best. They're your customers. They're purchasing your products. Why wouldn't you want to utilize it? So I do find that we have to talk to some of these bigger name companies about like, UGC is okay. Like people want to see UGC content, but a lot of them have been, in the space for a long time and they're a little afraid of it. And that's okay. I think it's okay.
And Kristi, so are they, what are they actually afraid of? I'm curious. I've never talked about this. So like, are they afraid of like the lighting not being right? Are they afraid the content's going to be presented in the wrong way? All of the above? Like,
all of the above. All of the above. They're just afraid that like somebody in the brand is going to say, why do we have that one particular person, right? Whereas if you just have a plethora of people, all colors, all shapes, all sizes, all ages, right? Like I'm in my 50s. I want to see UGC content of women in their 50s and 60s. I'm not going to buy a skincare brand from somebody who's 25 that doesn't have the problems that I have. Right. So I think it's just getting them to tip their toes in it a little bit. But this is a conversation I have quite often.
And Jean-Denis, I saw you shaking your head vociferously as I asked her that question. So I know you want to jump in here, but like, what's your take? What have you seen work or how do you combat that?
It's a difficult question because you know that the brands are really, let's say, stressed about their ability to control, the brand experience, the brand perception, etc., etc. And now they discover that it was the case with, let's say, with Facebook, with Instagram, with like almost top-down communication, etc. But now they discover that the Gen Z and spend their life on TikTok, and TikTok became the most important touch point within the consumer journey for aspirational inspiration, and even then purchasing consideration. But then they are lost because consumers are speaking between them, about the brand. So they don't need the brand to decide. So and they consume UGC content and live streaming of influencers, etc., etc. So I think that is going to change because many brands are afraid about, let's say, this brand equity protection, and that UGC content sometimes is not at the level of quality they expect. They provide content, so it's a question of, let's say, standard, where you put the content importance, but then they will have to, because the good thing is with shoppable video, with live streaming, etc., is that you get the opportunity to centralize all these actions and inspiration drivers into one single point of contact. So you could imagine that instead of letting your consumer going to YouTube, going to Instagram, to TikTok, to retail, etc., you could imagine that finally you get the opportunity to centralize all this kind of stuff and to inspire your consumer on a unique point of contact. Why not on your website, through live streaming, through a shoppable video, etc.? You put your product and services into context. And so people are looking for that, in fact. So then they have no reason to move out from the website and to get their inspiration outside your, let's say, branded platform. So it's a unique way for brands to, let's say, capture the fleeting attention of their consumer, trying to get inspired outside the brand and give them the ability to get all the information they are looking for and decide to purchase quickly.
And it's about building community, right?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, in getting them emotionally connected. Harvard Business Review did a study that emotionally connected consumers will deliver a 52% higher lifetime value to your brand. And I don't think people talk about lifetime value, right? Think about Gen Z, right? As their purchasing power grows and begins to dominate, video will be the medium where the transaction will occur, right? So you have to start now. I mean, the train has left the station literally.
Well, Kristi,
it's almost too late. It's almost too late.
Yes. Well, Kristi and Jean-Denis, and Jean-Denis, I'm curious, we're talking about this. One thing that I think of when I hear about talking about UGC as a means of kind of engaging with your consumer, of creating this community, and that content's already out there. It already exists. So you're pulling it in. Somebody's already doing that without you having to pay them yet or incentivize them or send product yet. How do you then plan, as I'm putting my 2025 plans together, working for a brand or retailer, how do I start to think about how to allocate resources and budgets toward these kinds of trends that Jean-Denis mentioned? Kristi, I'd love to get your perspective first, because I'm sure you're working with a lot of retailers and brands on this. How do you advise that they kind of put that into their budget when they've got content already? Now it's just a matter of how do I figure out how to manage it and get it out there in the right ways?
Yeah, I'm working with a brand right now, a pretty big beauty brand. They're going to do it through, they have a budget for gratis products that they would normally give to influencers or agencies, right? So they're going to keep a core of gratis so that when they find a UGC video and they get the consent for 30-day usage, they're sending that nano influencer a free product. Right. So those are kind of already allocated. They just are kind of grabbing it away from what they would normally give to desk sides or agencies. And now they're kind of shifting those gratis products. So it's not really costing them more money. They already had kind of allocations of gratis for 2025 and 2026.
It's just who it's going to that's different.
Correct.
So Jean-Denis, how does that work then I'm thinking from the brand side, that definitely changes then where budgets are being allocated, maybe coming from a marketing budget in a different way, or even how you as a former chief digital officer might work in conjunction with your chief marketing officer. What does that look like? And what is that relationship? What will that look like in the future as we head into 2025, as those teams are really working together in different ways to, one, create a platform to showcase this content, and then two, to showcase the content and determine what the right content is to create that community that Kristi's talking about?
I think I would say that it's always the same story about breaking the silos within companies. And to do that, let's say the key success factor is to be extremely consumer centric. So by being consumer centric, you break the silos between the, let's say, the audience you're going to target, your customer knowledge, the kind of content you're gonna put in their interaction, because each audience normally they have like dedicated content that meet their expectation with the right media mix depending on their consumer journey. So it's to give this ability to, let's say, a sales director, a marketing director, a digital director, etc., to all work together, being consumer centric and breaking the silos. And then the second step is to spend the required time to do all this social listening, to better understand how consumers are talking about the brand, the strengths, the weaknesses, then to adjust the message in the interaction. And when it comes to content creation, to fully embrace video content. Video, again, is totally overpassing picture. People are looking for rich content, immersive interaction. So meaning that now you have to create more and more video content, and to identify also your nano influencer brand advocates on network and social networks and engage with them to integrate them into the content strategy.
So, Jean-Denis, I'm curious what tactics you would use, because this is an investment that, is coming from like a CIO or a chief digital officer like you were. How do you position this as like no marketing team or, personalization or loyalty team? Like this is something that this is a technology that we should all invest in, that will be important as trends like video commerce, come into the fore a little bit more. Like what do you suggest that people listening do to kind of make that happen, or to impress upon them the importance of these kinds of tech investments?
So I know that sometimes when you disrupt too much the way you operate, etc., it's going to be difficult to move forward. So the best way to move forward, to be honest, is to start with a pilot. You start with one country, one touch point, one audience, one use case. It could be, for example, using video for video consultation with retail, through online and through your platform, to get a video consultation, to get some advices and recommendation on the product instead of going in retail. It could be just to add on a specific product a shoppable video. And then from a very, let's say, being very pragmatic, you just demonstrate that it works thanks to the right indicator of performance, and showing by the result out there, thanks to engagement, sales impact, etc., then you're able to scale. So I mean, it's not a priority to go big very quickly. The thing is probably fewer but bigger. Launch this pilot, optimize it, and then scale once you're going to demonstrate that it works, and it works very well.
Got it. Okay, so I want to put your chief digital officer background to the test here, Jean-Denis. So I'm curious too, like when you talk about the development of the tech stack to support an online store that, is heavily invested in video componentry and video commerce. What are the critical things that come into play to make that happen? So like, especially as so many brands and retailers are dealing with legacy systems as well, what are some of the success steps that you would recommend those watching take to make sure their tech stack is up to stack, so to speak?
I think that probably the core topic is about agility. So finding partners that will give you the required agility you sometimes don't have internally, So that's why instead of trying to reinvent by yourself capabilities or going with big partners, etc., and create more complexity, I've always looked to, let's say, very agile partner that will provide me with this agility, just through, let's say, very almost simple plug and play, and outsourcing these capabilities, going fast, sometimes even on the content creation, because sometimes you have the willingness to move forward, but internally you don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the skills to make it happen, you don't have the budget to create content, etc., and it takes time. So if you would like to demonstrate very quickly that it works, organize a pilot, outsource, let's say, almost everything, but by controlling, through a frame, but then it's freedom within the frame with the partner, but you define the frame and then you go on this pilot. And so that's why I had the privilege to work already with Firework at Coty, and I really appreciate that this agility to demonstrate that it works, and they took the lead on many topics of the pilot.
Got it. So it goes back to how you answered Anne's question, which is start small, bite off what you can chew, find the right partner that enables you to go fast, to learn quickly. And that's basically what you're saying. Kristi, is there any color you'd add there? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Jean-Denis.
Yeah, and especially to get the buy-in, because you could imagine that if you go and speak with a marketing director or communication director and say, oh, guys, video is overpassing picture, so let's move forward and shift to video. Obviously, I'm not sure that it's going to be very smooth as a discussion, you know? So meaning that when I say start with the pilot, you have to engage, convince people, you know, influence people, being pragmatic and consumer-centric. So probably the most complex thing is to ask people to be really consumer-centric. So instead of thinking about what could be the customer expectation, etc., just ask the consumer, you know, what are the consumer expectations? You're looking for more rich content, video content. Okay, you consume now only video content. So we're going to equip ourselves to meet your expectations. That's the point, you know. And sometimes from a cultural standpoint, it's complex to make it happen. And you're losing time because you try to convince consumer that they have to continue to consume picture, you know, but we know that it's not the story, you know.
Yeah, and follow the data through lots of small experiments. That's the other thing too, especially in video commerce. I have to think. Kristi, you're shaking your head. Yes.
Oh my gosh. It's all about the data. It's all about the data. The data does not lie. And he's absolutely right. I mean, we work with companies of all size at Firework, that's what's really great about us. But I typically work with the Cotys, the L'Oreals, the Unilevers of the world. And he's right. They always start with a POC, right? Let's test it on even one PDP page and let's do A/B testing. Let's split the audience 50-50 and let's see, the interaction with the Firework video player versus those who don't have it. And you can very quickly see the engagement time triple, the conversions go up 30 to 40%. The AOV goes up because if somebody goes, let's say Anne just needs to go replenish her shampoo and then she starts watching videos of, oh, you need this shine product. She's like, oh my gosh, I need this product. This
sounds right.
I'm gonna add this
sounds
to my
like something
cart.
Anne would do. Yeah.
Right. I need this to my cart. I need my hair to be shiny. I'm on camera. Right. So all of a sudden you start to see the AOV. So when you start to show these internal key stakeholders that maybe weren't so sure about video commerce, you start to show them conversions going up, AOV going up, engagement time doubling and tripling. They start to go, why do we just have this on a PDP page? This should be on a category page. This should be on the home page for product discovery, top of funnel, bottom of funnel, right? Then they start realizing. So that's exactly what happens. We start to work with brands and they test it in one location and then they end up putting it everywhere.
Well, I want to talk to you both about the measurement of this. I want to dive deeper. Like we talked about doing a proof of concept, but I think one of the most important things that we've learned through this Front Porch series with Firework is really understanding the new ways of measuring success. Kristi, one thing I want to ask you about that I've been thinking about since you said it at the beginning of this discussion was this, like, the engagement or the feeling or emotional connection that people have. Imagine like the rest of the stuff, I think we can get to AOV going up, like, increased engagement time on site. Like that makes sense to me. But how do you quantify or how do you explain something like that when you're justifying an investment? How do you recommend that people do that?
Well, you can tie the actual conversion through our purchasing pixel to what people actually consumed before they put the item in their cart. So you can tie down, like if somebody has a carousel of, let's say, 10 videos, we can see that they watched like 2 videos in full screen mode. We can tie down to the actual videos and we can attribute the revenue to what they actually interacted with.
So what that content was like, I mean, you can start to gather that specific level of information of like, well, when she shared this, vulnerable moment that she had and this product came in, like those are the stories that are hitting with our audience.
And that's when they added it to their cart. So you can really get granular with the data. We're kind of data geeks over here, but it's really cool when you can really start to tie those conversions or the average order value to specific things they actually watched within a video or a digital showroom.
That's really interesting because the question I want to ask you in this section too was like, in our business particularly, like there's almost no such thing as not enough content, right? Like you can always benefit from more and more content, but yet retailers and brands, they're resource constrained. And so you're playing that battle of how much content do I put on the site? Then you get page load times and all those factors come into play too. So how, like, as you're using this data and analyze things, I guess, Jean-Denis, my question for you is like, how do you balance how much content to actually make in this manner?
So I think it's not a question of balance. Probably it's a question of how brands and companies will organize themselves to be in a position to deliver the required content. So,
Okay.
there is three main topics when it comes to content strategy, content management. Is about content readiness, so the ability, of the brand to provide the content at the right timing, to be, to play it, to distribute it. The second one is about relevancy, for sure, to be extremely relevant regarding the audience you're going to address with relevant content. And the third one is about volume. And all companies know that to perform, to stand out from the crowd, they need the three of these. And volume is very important. It's not about creating, like, say, 10 pieces of content. It's creating, 100,000 pieces of content and assets. So that's why now companies are pushing, trying to organize themselves about content creation with this kind of different models, having an internal studio with, why not, an internal live streaming studio, having working also to work with external partners specialized in content for digital and video content, etc. So you have to shift and to organize ourselves to provide more content. I mean, all the touch point, all the interaction we have with our consumer, whatever the touch point is on the consumer journey, it's about content. At the core of it, it's about the content, a piece of content. So is this something which is extremely important, and we've increased drastically the volume of required content now.
So I want to keep going on this. So Kristi, let me go back to you. So your example, based on what Jean-Denis just said, you said like maybe 2 out of the 10 videos had the click on the page, right? That's what you said something to that degree. So then what do you recommend the retailer or brand do? Do they keep the other 8 up? Do they reposition it? Like how should they think about that as executives are new to evaluating the performance of their video assets on their website?
So that's where we really come in. We meet
Okay.
weekly with our clients, and we really, and every brand has a client leader who's really looking at the data. So it really isn't cookie cutter. It's like a recipe, a little of this, a little of that, right? You have to kind of look at each video. We had one client that had this video that was doing really well on social, but when she put it on her website, it wasn't the one that was performing the most, and the girl wasn't smiling at the beginning. And she noticed that the videos where the person was smiling at the beginning had more sales attributed to those videos, right? So it's really just, it's a lot of testing and learning, moving placements. You can easily drop and drag. You don't have to recode once we are like onto your site. You don't have to recode or anything. You can change, you can take a video out, you can add a new video, and also just aligning it with your marketing calendar. What product launches do you have coming up? What new products? So as you're shooting, pack shots, make sure that your social content and your video content also aligns with your marketing calendar. It makes perfect sense.
Right. Are you increasing your assets towards what you want to be promoting at this time of the year?
Yeah,
imagine too, there's so much content out there, right? Too. You have to manage this to exception too, as part of this weekly process, right? Like,
absolutely. But we're in the trenches with you. So that's what's really fun. You're not on an island by yourself.
How do you think about this? I think one thing that is hard for, say, an electronics retailer, for example, to think about is like, this makes sense in the beauty space. And we've talked about it in the beauty space because it is such an emotional category. But Jean-Denis, as you think about some of the trends that we've been talking about today, like what is consistent about where retailers and brands who are not in the beauty space, like what is consistent about what you've learned that you would impart on them as they're kind of putting together their strategy for the right resources and measurement to be successful with video commerce? What advice would you have for them?
So I think, just for sure, when it comes to beauty, it's about inspirational content, is lifestyle content. So it's the ability to put product and services into real life. so into context,
Yeah.
So obviously it's something that is more engaging. When it comes to other industry, for example, electronics, etc., it could definitely help because it's about education and relevant support to make the right choice. And so I've been very impressed about some use cases shared with me by the Firework team. But definitely, when you have like so many choices, on the platform, it gives you the ability, instead of losing your time going to each product, each brand, etc., making comparison, etc., again to make your choice quicker. So it's probably definitely a good way to move forward is to put focus on this content video strategy to help the consumer to make a choice within the big, let's say, big options of choosing the right product.
Let me
So it's
give you
about
an
it.
yeah. I was just going to say, let me give a non-beauty example.
Yeah,
Somebody
that'd
that
be great.
is not my client because it's outside of beauty, but do you know Green Pan?
Yeah,
Okay, so
I do. Yeah.
we just started working with them a few months ago, and you have to take a quiz, like, what kind of pans are you looking for? And you go through the quiz, and as you're answering the questions, it serves up another video. So we launched like 2 months ago, and everyone's like, go try the green pan thing. I ended up buying 2 new pans. I didn't even know I needed them, but I was so excited about like what they were showing and how it worked,
Right.
and how you didn't have to use soap and water to clean it. You didn't need any oil in your pan when you were making your salmon, right? There was like this whole cooking thing. That's why I'm fascinated with the Food Network, right? Like my husband's like,
Right.
and another Food Network show. But I got so excited watching the Green Pan videos, and ended up buying the products, right? So that's what's great about this. It's really vertical agnostic. I mean, wouldn't you love for somebody to show you the refrigerator that you're thinking about buying, but you don't live near a Home Depot or a Lowe's? Wouldn't you love a digital showroom where somebody could like open up the refrigerator and show you how this ice machine works and how you can change it's just, it works
Yeah.
in any industry. That's what's so exciting about video commerce.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, Jean-Denis, you got me thinking of something, and Kristi with that green pan example too. Like, as we see retailers start to invest more in like language-based search and these kinds of things. I mean, these other trends that we're seeing as
100%.
people are shopping, like, Jean-Denis, how do you think about that and the role that video commerce plays alongside something like that to really get to do what you're saying, which is get people the answers they're looking for and the confidence in their purchase more quickly?
I think it's a huge link between video content and personalization. So they will use data to be sure that at the end the product recommendation they're gonna do is gonna be extremely relevant for the consumer. So it's about building consumer knowledge at the level where we were not able to today, thanks to
Right.
data and AI. And as a result, to be extremely relevant in the product recommendation and experience.
And Kristi, how are people measuring that? Like, I'm wondering if you have, like, is that a new metric that we're putting into place where it's like, okay, now that they've gotten so far down this video path, and now we're serving up the video that confirms the question that they were answering, that we've had this back and forth with. Like, is there new ways, or are there new ways that retailers need to be thinking about, like, okay, how do we decide, or how do we determine, like, whether or not this is successful? We're going to continue to push maybe the AI chatbot on this part and then video commerce on that part. Like, how do you think about that or make recommendations for your clients at Firework?
Yeah, and a lot of the times through our personalization, the customer's able to give a little what they liked about it, right? They can, oh my God, this is amazing, right? So it's getting that content, getting the feedback from the customers themselves. And again, ultimately at the end of the day, we are here in e-commerce to sell products, right? So if the sales are coming through and it's working, then it just gives those internal key stakeholders the ability to keep saying, yes, let's be all in, let's plan our next 3 years of video commerce, right? Let's really blow it up. So it just gets really, really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway from the question you asked, Anne, and listening to both of our guests today that I didn't know coming into this is really like, it goes back to what Jean-Denis said about personalization. It's like, this concept is applicable to any category, because that's the beauty of digital commerce, that it gets down into the niches of who we are as individuals. And so any of us can, by way of these new tools, have our own personalized kind of QVC shopping experience, or our own personalized, natural language model search experience that serves up video content in this way. And that's really really powerful if you kind of think about it or put yourself in that perspective as the consumer, but more importantly, as the retailer, the brand trying to serve up content in that space.
I want to give a quick thank you again to Jean-Denis and to Kristi for being with us today to cover some of these trends that we all should be watching out for in 2025. Jean-Denis, if people want to follow you, they want to ask you questions about other trends that are coming up for the year ahead and just about your experience rolling out video commerce at Coty and other beauty brands, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
They can do that anytime they want. Probably the most convenient way is through LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. And Kristi, you're going to be at NRF at booth 3951, right by the Starbucks. You've got prime real estate at NRF. But if people want to connect with you while they're there at NRF or beforehand, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yep, same. LinkedIn is the best way. Just connect, send me a LinkedIn request, and we can set up a chat.
Amazing. Well, that wraps us up today. Thanks so much to Jean-Denis Mariani and Kristi Vannatter of Firework for sitting down with us today. And as always, on behalf of all of us here at Omni Talk, be careful out there.